Hey everyone, and welcome to the Unlearning Curve, a podcast hosted by the St. Charles Center for Faith Plus Action. I'm Paige Davis, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Reverend Dr. Mark Boswell. Mark, welcome.
Paige, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited for the podcast. Glad to be here.
Today, we will be joined by Sam Hubbard of Just Love New Orleans to learn more about their work here in New Orleans. Before we welcome them on and begin, we'd like to ask you, our listeners, to like or subscribe to our podcast in whatever medium you're using to find us. Doing so helps others find our work out there in the vast land of podcasts. Remember also that you can find out more about the center at www.stcharlesab.center or on Instagram at St. Charles Center. Sam?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, hello.
Hey.
How's everybody today? How's everybody feeling?
Good.
Feeling good.
You feeling good?
Yeah, a new podcast. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm excited. And it's a heat wave right now. So
The heat wave.
Disgusting outside.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a little bit. My gills are in full effect. My gills have grown in. It's a useful tool to grow in southern Louisiana.
It's true.
How's the AC doing in the building, though? Is that...
It's limping along. It's doing it the best it
It's
can
doing
here.
its best.
Historic building, New Orleans,
Yeah.
Louisiana, middle of the summer, very hot.
And let's face it, what air conditioning system of any type has a chance down here?
Right.
Everything struggles.
Truly.
That's right.
Really.
That's right.
It's all struggle.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh, I always feel weird about these things because I'm like, I don't know what to tell about myself. Well, I've lived in the greater New Orleans area for over half my life now, which I don't know if that makes me a native or not. I'm told no.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Who holds that certification? Please email me because I would like to get certified as a certified Southern Louisiana New Orleanian. I'm married to my wife Morgan. I got a couple grown kids. Which talk about, like, it's funny that you say, like, tell us a little about yourself. It's like, I'm trying to figure that out. I'm a empty nester, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what do you do when you've been a dad all your life and now you're like, oh, I have time and I can do what I want? Who does that?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Glorious.
Yeah. But so I'm pouring all that existential angst into my dogs, my two dogs and my two cats. But professionally, my technical, I guess if you want to say, my technical title is I'm the movement initiator for Just Love Greater New Orleans. We're just a community that exists to help our neighbors, really anybody, flourish body, mind, and soul by creating environments and creating spaces where curiosity can turn into care can turn into connection, and connection turns into collaboration. I have a lot of other mini titles, which is really just like hats, but that's the way of the world now. You know, I don't think anybody is just, I'm this.
Yeah.
You have to wear multiple hats. But so...
Well, Sam, let's your hat number one. You said movement initiator.
Yes.
I think there would probably be a lot of listeners who would say, "What is that?" I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, out of the tradition, I'm out of Christian tradition. That I'm out of. We've been way out ahead of the game about, what does it mean to be a faith community, or what does it mean to even be a community in an area? And, we really believed, or how they frame it is like there's big things that have changed the world are movements. They're not institutions. They're not just, they're movements. And so they just wanted to instill, like, hey, for a community to thrive and continue, it has to continue to move. And so that's what it's always based on, is like, we're a movement and movements move. And that means I'm the initiator of the movement. And luckily, one day I'll hopefully get to put that title away and just I'll be in the movement, and that's it. So,
others can help you move.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Not to be mistaken, I don't want to get into the moving business because I'm getting up there. My
Sam
back
and
ain't
a
liking
truck.
it. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a truck, but
All right.
yeah.
That's interesting. And it's kind of countercultural a little bit to call it a movement rather than an organization.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Because, I think sometimes when we, at least how I've learned to articulate it, when I think we think wherever our goal is, that's where we get to stop. And, I'll talk more, but like when it comes to human development, human flourishing, I mean, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. I mean, you're just going to constantly be evolving, constantly growing, constantly moving.
Yeah.
And if you just accept that, your life will tend to be a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but you at least know what's going on,
So what types of things does Just Love do to create that movement?
That's all kinds of things. Actually, when I first came here, and when I was even talking to a group of people about, trying to create something here in New Orleans, I actually kind of shocked them, because I was just like, well, how do you know it's needed? Like, how do you even know? Because what was happening was they were ceasing to exist. They were closing down, and
who was closing down?
Well, it was a group of it was a church. It was a group of folks that, and it was the last group. It was the last church in the area of the denomination. It's Christian Church Disciples of Christ, and they were closing. It was the last one in the area, and they were saying, "Hey, we need to do something." And I'm like, "Okay, well, are you sure? Because nobody made it."
Do people even want that?
Yeah. Does New Orleans want that? Do the people want that?
That's a good question.
Are you even invited? Are we invited here? And so I spent the first year just figuring that out. Like, are we invited? And then I started to see, there's definitely an invitation here, and it really was, because I mean, we really did settle on the idea of like just love, of just loving our neighbors. And we knew early on that really to love people, you have to love all of a person, their body, their mind, their soul. And just kind of, I was like, for the older people in the audience, does anyone remember like Kung Fu? Remember that? You got to come on, Mark.
I've heard of Kung Fu. Are you referring to a movie, or just the general practice? Here we go. The tradition of Kung Fu.
Hold on, let me move my cane out of the way. Because I have to explain it to the youngins.
I heard that Wu-Tang really likes Kung Fu, I believe, right? So I'll date myself that way.
Thank you. Well, that's very good. Yeah, it was just David Carradine. It was this Kung Fu guy that just almost like David Banner, like the Hulk from the TV show. Like he just wandered from town to town and did good. And
is this a TV show?
Yeah, it was a TV show.
A TV show. Okay.
Yeah, it was a TV show. It was called Kung Fu. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I did. I was just like Kung Fu in it, like non-violently everywhere. Just like someone said, "Hey, you want to help out here?" I'm like, "Okay."
So here in New Orleans, you're Kung Fuing all over the place.
I'm Kung Fu, not fighting.
So Disciples of Christ congregation is transitioning to a new phase of, got it. And then and then tell us more about the Kung Fuing then. What were some of the initial things that was starting with Just Love?
Well, in the I just started meeting people and listening to them, like what is your pain points? What do you need? What are the things that are missing? And I had an old friend of mine who was at an historically African American church over in Central City, and they had been serving the unhoused like a meal and clothing and all this stuff. And I was like, "Hey man, I'd love to come help out," and he's like, "Sure." And I go there, and it's just a lovely thing they have going on. But then I was just like, I noticed, I was like, "Hey, it'd probably be helpful, if we collected some data so we understand who we're serving better," maybe. And I did, and we found out a lot. We found out, of the, like, say 60 people they were serving, 3/4 of them were elderly and above 50. And then 3/4 of those were above 65. And you're like, wow, how are people, that are, this, of this age, like suffering like this? It's, And then we, made connections with other resources and really got to tell the people who've done the serving, the impact they were making. Like this little church of folks and a few other churches that were helping out and organizations that were helping out were like kicking in $160,000 worth of impact into it. And that was just one little place.
Right.
But that's where it started. And then next thing you know, I started to go, hey, wait a minute. I wonder there's a lot of like faith institutions that are doing things around here. What do they do? So I met them and then started to like say, hey, such and such, and do you know they're doing this over here? Let's share and this and that. And then that led to meeting people of different faith traditions. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's a lot of like faith institutions here and a lot of, and we're kind of all doing the same things in different directions. What if we like talked more and worked together more? And
yeah.
So I then started pulling this thread of like interfaith stuff and then just because of my own like need for friends and just for being, I'm just a genuinely curious person. We said, hey, what if we just got together and talked about one question and see what happens? And I think the first time we just tried it out in a bar, and it was like I got a completely random group of people together. Mm-hmm. Like I still can't believe they showed up, honestly. And I said the question was, why do you think the way you think? And we talked for 2 hours, and I want to tell you, like half of us knew each other, and half of us this was the first time we met.
Right.
And we're talking about children of like family of origin stuff. Mm-hmm. Trauma, wounds, and it was all from one question. And I was like, I don't know what that was, but we need to do that again.
Right,
yeah.
intimate.
Yeah,
like,
and that's and so we kept doing that, and it was just amazing to me. The group of like the folks that just came, there was a big desire to just get in a group of just different people and talk these things out in a non-judgmental space and a supportive space. And it was just weird to watch how communities start forming. And it was interesting to me. And I looked at this and I was just like, this shouldn't be happening. You know, it shouldn't be happening because like when you look at we'll just say like faith institutions, you know, it's an effort to bring people. That's what it's there. It's to bring people together and knit them together. And I was seeing things happen in this random group of people that didn't happen in churches for decades.
Right.
And we just started to lean into that.
Yeah.
And
what churches have been hoping for would happen.
Yeah. And it was happening from people who weren't necessarily faith influenced people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just to be clear to any people who are listening, this is not you doing new things with just that original congregation. No. Right. Yeah. I'm assuming that, but just, to be clear for folks who are listening, this is you being out in the community, pulling people together from all over the place who are interested and curious and wanting to be together and find a relationship. And that is such a very different out of the box model, beyond the walls of what used to be and et cetera. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's probably important to say that like, I grew up, you know, not around religion.
Yeah.
And I was always very curious and learning a lot. And I even knew at an early age, I was just like, there's a lot of people believing a lot of things and they're all saying that they're the one that's the right one.
Right.
And I was just like, I was young enough to know, I was like, one of them is probably wrong, you know, or just say, or maybe something else is different. And I just kind of stayed away from it. But then, you know, later on in life, I, like life does, you know, you just start getting to a place where you're curious about like your answers that you have just aren't working, aren't fitting. Right. And, I did enter a traditional religious space and ended up like, trust me, complete surprise by me, you know, like becoming a pastor there in that. Yep. And, which was a wonderful experience, but I always tell everybody that the atheist is always still in me, and it keeps me super honest.
Yeah,
because I'll read something or I'll think I was going to say something, and my atheist friend, my atheist self was just like, really? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
too authentic.
Yeah, right. It's just like, right. And so like even like you probably can tell even when I talk now, like I don't overtly talk about that, like, you know, Christianese or even stuff like that, because that's I leaned into that a while, and once again I was always curious as to why, you know, we spent all this time, you know, doing these things inside, but like there was there was nothing going on with the people. There was like this disconnection, and I always had that draw to that. And I remember, so I always created things actually for people who weren't there. And
Okay.
yeah,
Sure.
And, like even when my last thing I did before I got here, I was on a college campus, and they said, "Hey, we want you to revitalize this particular, campus ministry that's dead." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm fine." And then what I realized, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to create a church that Christians don't want to go to."
Right.
And it's like,
right.
and they're like, "What?" And sure enough, we did. And, because there's people that, I mean, everybody is a spiritual being. I know, there's a lot of challenge around that. But it's true. And when you really understand, at least from my perspective, that spirituality is not all woo woo, not some, great entity out in the sky, although that's part of it. It's like, it's about connection. It's connection between us. It's connection between, all of existence. It's connection to, something greater than ourselves. And that means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's where I really started getting, connecting. 'Cause in a weird way, I thought that traditional religious spaces was like scratching that itch of what I felt I needed to do. But then it was just a half measure, 'cause I felt like where I was experiencing the most, of that connection, of that generativeness, was outside of that, and with people of all kinds of different perspectives and understanding. And so now I would even say, like, what we're doing, that's why I always hesitate, because, when people hear the word church, it's,
a lot of baggage.
there's a lot of baggage to it.
Yeah,
Or,
absolutely.
an idea of what it should be like.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, but also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but everybody needs spiritual care. Everybody needs a place where they can find that, find that for themselves, and be supported, but also, a place where, they can be cared for physically and mentally, and where we can care for and help other people physically, mentally, and spiritually. And it's I know it's a weird thing and hard to explain, but yeah, it's really a spiritual community that, that exists to try to, just love people, body, mind, and soul, and fully, wholly.
It's pretty cool too, because you're talking about this spiritual care, and you guys primarily meet in bars, right? And so kind of a traditionally, historically neutral place where anybody can come, anybody can show up. And so I find that really interesting that you guys meet in those spaces.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, why wouldn't we? I mean, they're a lot cool.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
there's some great ones here.
Yeah. No offense, but, I'm sorry, Second Line or Nola Brewery is a little bit more poppin' than, a fellowship hall at 6 o'clock at night, But that being fair, that being said, we've made a lot of great connections and partnerships with faith institutions in the area, and also, non-faith based, institution or organizations. And I love the hospitality that everybody has, and the shared resources. So it really is, achieving that too, of like connecting, us and all of our different perspectives that way too.
Well, that can really meet people where they're at also, because there are a lot of people, like we said, who come from churches, and that can have baggage, and people don't really feel comfortable anymore stepping into a church space. I mean, my own story, it took me a long time to really feel comfortable in a sanctuary again, so I think it's really great to meet people in a space where they'd feel comfortable and want to come.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, religion, and not to get too deep, but, I think that's something that religion and spirituality in general really needs to address, is because we're still, in a lot of ways, especially I'll say in, like the Christian circles, like we're still approaching something from a 2000 to 1500, year point of view. And it's like, y'all, my daughter opens up her phone and she gets a limited amount of meaning and purpose and stories of what is true every day. We all do. And so to say that, this particular story or this particular way I make meaning and purposes the way everybody should is a little. I don't think that's true anymore.
Oh, totally.
And so now we have to. And I don't think it ever was true.
Yeah.
But now we're confronted with like, oh, there's a lot of different stories about how we make meaning and purpose in the world. And so what would happen if it all belonged?
Yeah.
You know, and let each story impact you as much as it can and form and shape you and open your eyes to see like, oh, the world is insanely diverse and beautiful, quite honestly. Because there's not a day that goes by when I meet somebody and they tell me about their life or how they view the world or how they view whatever their spirituality is or whatever their purpose is in the world. I'm so annoying sometimes because I'm like, wow, that is fascinating.
Well, that kind of leads to the next question too. I was going to ask is, talking about all this meaning and inspiration, where do you draw inspiration from, or are there leaders that influenced you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I love this because I got these questions beforehand and it really made me think. I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, how many, do you have time?
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned your internal atheist, so I put them in this great cloud of witnesses.
Oh, yeah.
Who else is there? Right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, you pick any great, I will say this, a majority of the people that have influenced me are people that are always curious, like that are always asking questions, that are just not fine with
Give us names,
the status
Sam.
quo. Well, you know what? The first one that came to my mind was the very first person, besides my mom and dad, which I'll say that just off the bat, especially my mom, but like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Like I was growing up in Mr. Rogers and he just fascinated me because he was like this infinitely kind person that just, made you feel like so warm and fuzzy. Mm-hmm. But then I was old enough to realize I was like, but he's a little gangster, Like, do you remember that? You probably don't. Again, I'm the old guy. But there was a whole scene where his mailman was African American, and there was a whole little thing about them taking their shoes off and putting their water in the same pool, and it was
putting their feet in the same wading pool together, right? When battles were being fought about integrating public pools across the South and elsewhere.
Right. And it was this, but it was this wonderful moment that was also a huge statement that was not violent. That was, and it just, that really stuck with, he always stuck with me. Mm-hmm. And then, I've read a lot of different philosophers and spiritual leaders and teachers. And of course, I mean, I would probably say the one that, really started solidified. It's very broad for me now, but solidified was of course Jesus, but
wah, wah, wah.
No. But it was, but remember, I approach.
No offense, Jesus.
No.
Right.
But no, I approach it. No, remember, I looked at it from an atheist point of view.
Sure, yeah.
And but no, because I read it. I read, his stuff, and I was just like, none of that should work. None of that should work.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean, die to yourself? What does that do? You're not going to do that, or like, lose yourself to fight, or like do all these counterintuitive things. And actually I said, in my atheist scientific mind, I said, well, I'm going to do Pascal's wager. And the only way to prove something is not true is to exist as if it was. And so I didn't believe any of the truth claims or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just like, I just looked at like a way of life, like this way of life. And I was like, I'm going to try to live this way of life. And funny enough, I was like, oh, this is a good way to live, because it is learning how to, love and accept and embrace people as they are, where they are, and care for them. But also there's a part of it that is challenging. It's like there is something wrong and it needs to be fixed and someone needs to do it. And it was just, that was, and really any teacher. So you're talking about Gandhi, like that's another one, or, but I love, like, there's great scientists. Like I loved Einstein. Like Einstein was brilliant, and even Oppenheimer he had so many wonderful things to say. But I just love curious people. And by the way, just to Jesus, that's the one thing that really stood out with me with Jesus that a lot of people never point out is like the dude never answered a question.
Question with the question.
Never.
Right? Yeah.
Never.
Right. Yeah.
And I just saw how that just opens people up.
That was very formational for me when I was kind of deconstructing and looking at, I had an Episcopalian priest who I would ask questions and he would reflect the questions back at me. And so it was powerful. No, but I really love that Jesus did that.
Yeah.
And if you let Jesus be a first century Palestinian Jew who was colonized under a foreign empire and was this apocalyptic movement leader who's not white male American Jesus, then Jesus suddenly becomes infinitely more interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And bold and what can be helpful for folks who are looking for something other than this particular version of American Christianity.
Yeah.
That we're often, for so many people is the only thing that they know because it's the only thing they've been presented.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I'm not, shout out to Jesus here. I suppose Jesus of Nazareth, not the, right. Yeah. Kind of.
That's right.
But square that off. Yeah.
But I would say but then you could look at other, there's always this in almost all faith traditions. There's an aspect of it where there is the questioning side. Like, in Judaism, I mean, they're just nothing but, they're nothing but questions. And, Buddhism is a question. And, you look at Hindu and all of the, true spirituality is about questioning and asking more questions than having answers and really asking those questions to yourself.
And then boldly challenging kind of the culture of large that you're in. You mentioned Mr. Rogers, and it made me immediately think of Miss Rachel. I thought Mr. Rogers walked so Miss Rachel could run, and she's having really kind of a moment too because of her very bold stances. She's making statements. She's being bold and brave, but it can feel really counter to a larger narrative. But she recently had the quote that's kind of going viral right now that said I can handle backlash and you can handle backlash too, something like that, essentially saying we got to toughen up a little bit and be able to handle the backlash, but we got to be bold anyways. And I think that was kind of Jesus's thing too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love Martin Luther King's quote. What did he say? The arc of the universe bends towards justice. Mm-hmm. I always added my version at the end of it was and we bend it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it doesn't bend on its own.
Right. Correct.
And so it's any teacher of, or any practitioner, that those are the people that influence me that can somehow hold, this infinite amount of care and grace and openness while also challenging of saying hey, everything belongs as it is. But we still have stuff to do. Yeah. There's still, and I look much more at an individual level, because I mean, we all get, because the truth of the matter is you can't do large scale change unless you change individuals and mostly yourself. And that's really what we're trying to do is create an environment, and really a community where anybody and everybody can do that.
Yeah.
If they want to. Because sometimes people just want to come to go serve an unhoused, or give clothes and some people just want to be a part of a NAMI meeting or we have a group of foster care parents that, that's what they need. And it's just amazing when you open yourself up to that, what happens and who comes and the kind of growth and change that happens, not only for the other people, but for myself. It's just been a constant, if I was to die right now, it's just going to be on my tombstone is just wow, it's I just love meeting people and just the incredible diversity and beauty that they bring in the world, really.
Sam, you mentioned your parents at the very beginning of that response.
Yeah.
You want to say more about that?
Oh yeah. Because my, and I mean, not to get too, I think one of the questions you asked was what was that? What draws you to this work? Yeah. What draws anybody to anything? Family trauma. What do you think?
What you're working out.
Yeah.
Right. Working on and working out.
Yeah,
right.
Family of origin, it's my mom was, just a wonderful, caring, selfless person. And, you know, my dad was a Vietnam vet. He had PTSD. It wasn't a great environment for a long time. And we were in poverty, you know, so here I was steeped in poverty, a dad who was mentally ill with, no spirituality whatsoever. Yeah. And even when we were, and I'll be honest, the thing that that really turned me into an angry atheist was that everybody knew what was going on in my family's life and nobody did anything. And I was like, well, wait a minute. But they would be more than welcome to say, hey, you want to come to my meeting, or you want to come to my church, or you want to come to my thing? And I'm like,
why would I want to go?
Why would I want to go? You're not really concerned about what's going on in my life. Yeah. And that really impacted me because, my dad did get better, and but they were together. It was that same side of things. My mom was the soft, like, caring side, and my dad was this tough, you know, resilient challenger. And they both, you know, ultimately shaped me, you know, tremendously. And my experience of like, because like right now I just can't stand, like, it's visceral to me. I just, nobody can be excluded. Like, nobody. Yeah. And that's a period. Like, there's no but, there's no asterisks. Even the people that don't want to include people, you're included. It's going to be hard for you, but you belong here. And so that's the thing that really drives me a lot is just people belonging and being included and being accepted fully as they are.
Yeah, we share a lot of that, Sam. My childhood experience is very similar, but I was in the church and felt like still nobody cared, even though I was there. You know, nobody wanted to talk about what was going on. And so, but it did create this deep desire in me that I want people to be seen. I want people to be heard. Give them the chance, you know, to express themselves, because that's the most isolating, you know, lonely portion of things in this walk of humanity, is if you don't have people to share life with, even the hard, messy things with, you know, and of course, you know, the joy and the good as well. But having those people is tremendously vital. You know?
I think now more than ever, you know, like we've talked about this, you know, on Sidebar several times, but it's like, you know, we're like, COVID really messed us up. Yeah. A lot. Yeah. And where, like, I even found myself, I'm like, how do you make friends again? You know, or like, how do you exist in a community again? But then realizing like how absolutely essential, I mean, just like water, air, food, like you have to have community. And then couple, you know, layer onto that, you know, not to push this button, but, you know, the political disconnections and silos. And then, of course, it goes into the spiritual world. And I mean, you just name it. We are all just getting in our little silos. And I'm just like, ugh. You know, it's like, truly. I like being around people like me, but I'm also tired of being around people like me. You know, it's like,
that's right.
Yeah. It's like, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, family trauma, what's moved you, us, et cetera, through our lives to be where we are today. It's I'm going to just go back to the very beginning. The podcast, and Paige, I'm going your way. The podcast is called The Unlearning Curve. I think we've been dancing all around that theme. I mean, the whole time today. Would you, Paige, say more about sort of and I think it feeds on what you were just talking about, like growing up and how, like, things that you've been through a number of transitions, which to me means like you're learning, you're unlearning, you're figuring new ways out, you're exploring things, you're being curious and moving into other ways of seeing and being in the world, that maybe was not what we had from the beginning, taking some things, but then picking up some others. Would you say more about what led you to title the podcast this? And then, and you use that language with a lot of the Center for Faith and Action's work of unlearning and learning. So say more about that, if you would, and then we can have a bigger conversation too about, Sam, like some things that you have learned and unlearned over any number of years that you want to talk about. Right.
Sure. Yeah. So really, you know, we know the phrase a learning curve. It's very familiar, right? We know a learning curve means that you're kind of taking your time, and you've had to adjust. You've had to maybe adjust the temperature, adjust your perspective, adjust, yourself as you're learning something, right? And so I liked the unlearning curve because sometimes there are aspects of things that we grew up learning, whether it was from school, our families, trauma, church, whatever it is, that we're just kind of born into, and we learn, and we're in the systems at large, and we're learning these things, and they might be things that we need to unlearn. So, for me, that's very true. As I stated earlier, I grew up, had some challenging things in childhood, and I learned some methods for survival and for living in the systems at large that served me well at the time to get me through, but ultimately weren't great for me long term. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a common theme for a lot of people, not just me. 100%. You learn some things and then you got to unlearn them and unravel them a bit later. And that can look a lot of different ways. It can look very personal with your trauma and how you're existing in the world, but it can look that way for your perspective of the world and your perspective of other people. You may put people into boxes, or we may have ideas of systems that we think are helpful until we learn, whoa, that's really not helpful. I particularly think of, the criminal legal system is one big example. I think of as you grow up, you're a kid and you're like, trust the cops and those kind of things. And then as you get older, you learn, there's a lot of systems at play that aren't really helpful for our community. And maybe we should do this a little differently. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at learning and unlearning. But that's what it means to me. And my hope is for this podcast that as we interview folks, which this is our first one, so thanks, Sam, for doing this with us.
My pleasure.
But I hope folks who join us and listen, will be able to take away something that they've learned or unlearned, in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I think the religious analog to this is a term that's already been used, is like deconstruction.
Yeah.
Is one that's the unlearning part for a lot of people that might find their way to this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like you have had to deconstruct some things.
Right.
Yeah.
I grew up fundamentalist Christian. I think maybe
so did I.
Right. Yeah. There's some similarities there. There's some, and it can be scary. It can be isolating. You can lose relationships for some of that when you start to do that. And so Sam, to pivot back to you, I appreciate my own spin of some of what you're doing is that you're sort of opening up spaces in which, I'm speaking personally, like when you go through that deconstruction process, if you grew up evangelical or conservative and then you find yourself somewhere else, then you don't always know where you can find community again.
No.
And you're opening up very expansively, very widely these spaces in which people can come and make relationships and connections with each other. And that is a gift to the world, to be sure.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we forget, which I don't know how we do, is like, we're not just a body. We're not just our head, in our mind. We're not just our spirit or whatever you want to call that. We're all of those things all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we bifurcate all of those things to take care of those things. And the one that never made the sense to me was the spiritual side, because I'm like, that's just everything. That's what connects everything. And actually, this has just fascinated me. Like ever since I, even when I was an atheist, I was always obsessed with, how do people change? How do you grow? How do you evolve? And for a while, when I entered into the religious world, I was like, okay, I see what's happening. Like, just like we all start, like a clean slate, we need to have boundaries. We need to have rules. We need to know the stove's hot. We need to know, like, don't talk to strangers. We need to, all of these things, or like we were talking earlier, sir, man, well, all that business. And for some people that just can be their whole life. And, that's one path, but there's other paths, and it's in it's just a ubiquitous human experience of where people, I would call it, I mean, I'm not the only one, but there's like a first half of life, second half of life. And the first half of life is where you get your structure, your story, your meaning and your purpose. But then, like with anything, you cannot contain all of existence and humanity in a nice little,
right.
It's impossible.
Right.
And so people start switching from story to searching and be going like, hey, you know, I may say whatever tradition I grew up in or didn't grow up in, this feels comfortable to me, but hey, you know, those Buddhists over there, I like this, what they taught, or like this over here, or that over there, or this philosophy. And we've done a very poor job as humanity, but as creating spaces and communities, environments where people can do that and not feel like they're going to be excluded or like, oh, well, you know, you were 99%, but this one thing, if you can't be a part of this group, and that never really made sense to me. But I get how, in a more binary way of thinking, how that could be really threatening. Because, like, yeah, we all want answers,
right? We
all want it in a nice little bow too, and unfortunately, that's just not the case,
right?
All of those little answers come unraveling eventually. Some people later in the life, you know, but for most of us, it happens, you know, midpoint in our life, and it's like, what is this? What does my life mean? And I think you need more than one story to really make sense of that, if that makes any sense.
It's the beauty of polytheism from ages way gone by.
Well, I mean, I would say this is one of those $10 words you learn in graduate school, and it is like, I'm a perennialist in the sense of like, if it's true everywhere for everyone at every time, it's true. And that transcends everything.
Yeah.
Like, I think generally speaking, we've agreed as society, we shouldn't kill each other, because it's bad.
Right.
And that's pretty wise. And to me,
sums it up.
Yeah. But there's so much wisdom in just the whole of humanity. It seems counterintuitive to just say, oh, I'm just going to pick this little one sphere of it, when there's so much to it.
Well, and it's just very human of us to need to change and for things to move and evolve. That's just normal and natural. And I love that Just Love creates a space where no matter where people are at on their journey, they can enter and kind of have a place to be themselves and talk about these deep concepts in a way that's open and inclusive. So I love what y'all are doing.
Oh,
with
well,
Just
thanks.
Love.
Yeah, it's been scary, honestly, but I just am constantly rewarded when I just see people without all the manipulation, without all the stuff, you know, and just given space to be fully seen and fully heard. And it just does something to people. It does something to you. And I just seen it over and over and over again. And I just know, like, that's what I want to do is do those things.
Yeah.
And see people ultimately, and I've just seen so much more connection and real healing from people because of it. And like I have a really close friend who's a philosopher atheist, and me and him have just the most wonderful conversations, and we always land in the same spot, always. But he always says, it's crazy how we just really come at the world in totally different ways, but we always land in the same spot. And I'm like, it's funny, isn't it?
Nice. That's
yeah.
really nice.
And I just wonder how much more of that. I think we generally all land in a lot of the same spaces.
Yeah.
We just come about it different ways.
I think something for us, I'm going to speak on behalf of my pastor hat for St. Charles Avenue Baptist Church. Like, one thing that has been interesting to see over the years, we have members of our congregation who are atheists, who are agnostic, who come because they enjoy the community, who come because they enjoy hearing more about spiritual wisdom, et cetera, and in a non-dogmatic, non-authoritarian setting, which we try to create and have done for a while. But the thing that really draws us more together, I think, well, clearly beyond any sort of maintenance of dogma or traditional orthodox, teaching about this particular religion, is the common thread that runs across, I think, through the congregation is respect for basic human rights.
Yeah.
Basic civil rights for all people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that then becomes like the plumb line or the guiding set of values that that's, you said much earlier, being fully welcoming of everyone. And I often say the same in my role as a pastor. People have come to me and they've heard a sermon that was political or a sermon that was clearly left wing or progressive or whatever. And they would say, well, surely not everyone feels welcome in your church. And I said, well, everybody, everyone is welcome to come to our church, but they might not want to come back.
Yeah.
They may not want to come again. But like, my point is, we are not going to hold litmus tests for someone's spirituality or like theological orthodoxy.
Yeah.
But what the line that we won't cross is letting other people be disrespected in terms of those like human rights and the civil right aspect of it.
Yeah.
And which goes again to like being truly welcoming one side to the other and all multiple sides and all points of view. And so I think it's a line that a lot of people find hard to balance.
Oh yeah.
Of how do we create a truly warm and welcoming space?
It's tough
wherever it is. And still, because we know we know somewhere inside of us, like there are things that we
draw a line.
Right.
Yeah, we all have lines.
And it can be that welcoming piece. So
yeah.
Well, see, that's why I love, like, I've always, when we've entered into those, tense spaces, like I'm trained as a chaplain, spiritual director, all that stuff. And, and a lot of different, secular trainings too. But it's always like, oh, when that tension happens, that's not the time to argue. That's the time to question. And to be like I've never not been rewarded because I've come across a lot of people where, like, spoiler alert. Yeah, I have my lines, and I have my biases and I have my, I have my thems,
right.
And I don't like it. I don't like that I have it, but I have it. And what I've tried to do every time is when I'm confronted with that, when I feel myself, that thing in me welling up, I'm like, why does that make me mad?
Yeah.
And it's like, or it's like, and then I go, I say, okay, I need to understand why are they there? And so I'll ask real questions like, hey, when you said this, what do you mean? Like, where does this, and I have always been rewarded because eventually I'll always get to somebody where they'll say something and I'll be like, ugh, that bothered me. And then I'll ask another question. I'll ask another question. And I realize they were wounded. They were hurt. They experienced something that dramatically impacted them. And this is the way that they have made understanding and meaning and purpose about what that meant and how they're safe and secure and how they structured the world. And it's like, how can you, even though they may come to a place that you just completely disagree with and maybe even is abhorrent, it's like, okay, I understand where you started. Yeah. And I can connect with that because we've all had those experiences. And usually when people are finally seen like that, they'll soften up because it's probably the first time they've been actually acknowledged, like, this bad thing happened or this thing changed or hurt me. And I'm like, yeah, that sucked, man. And so I get why you're here. And it's just it's so much more of a generative connection after that. Yeah.
Well, and I have a particular compassion for people in that stance, just because it's been a journey for myself. I haven't always been as understanding or open-minded, or just as focused. And so, leaving room, and space for people who are questioning. And like you said, meeting them where they're at is really beautiful to be able to say, seeing them as human and coming with their own set of circumstances, to meet them where they're at. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, our next question is, what brings you unexpected hope or joy in your work right now?
Oh.
And Mark, feel free to jump in too.
Sure.
You're going to make me cry because I love humans. Like, I really do. Because
Sam.
I especially love humans in New Orleans because they are the weirdest group of people.
Absolutely.
Like, I always tell people this, like, if you thought you met everybody, come here. Because
Absolutely.
you are going to meet somebody who is the absolute most unique person.
When I first moved to New Orleans, I spent a lot of time sitting in a PJs, and I would watch people come in and was just utterly amazed at looking at people and how different they looked. I had never seen anything like what I had seen in New Orleans before. And it blew my mind in the most beautiful, wonderful way. So yes, completely agree. New Orleanians is full of interesting people.
And what I really love is like people that aren't waiting around for an institution or a group or a religion or a philosophy or whatever to tell them what to do. They're just doing it.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, I see that a lot in the nonprofit space here. People like there's probably more nonprofits in the area that are made up of 1 or 2 people or even like maybe 3 people at the most who are all underpaid or if they're paid at all and that are doing like addressing, violence or home or housing insecurity or food insecurity or just, basic human dignity and rights. And they're just doing it. And they don't need anybody to tell them to do it or, some deity from
permission
or a threat from some far off deity that, if you don't do this, you will, whatever. And that's really impressed me. And, it's actually made me step my game up quite a bit because I'm like, these guys are for real. I mean, I better be for real. But like, I think the thing that, I'll have to say the main thing, one of the biggest things we do is the Curious Crew thing with the questions. And I just love sitting at the table, with people as they're talking. And then when I see people like when that vulnerability starts happening and then the connection happens and then it's magic every time. And my wife, it's just like old hat now. Every time she's talking like, oh, this would happen at my table. This would happen. And she's like, what happened to you? And I'm just like, wow, well, it's like,
where do I even start?
And the desire for connection, is just always a thing that just wows me every time. And just how utterly good humans actually are when they're given the attention, time, and space to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
nice.
Sam, on that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. We greatly appreciate it. Paige, thank you for convening this and for getting us all together and getting this podcast launched and off the ground. We greatly are looking forward to more to come. Paige, do you want to close us out with any concluding thoughts today as we head our way?
Yeah, well, thank y'all so much for this. This is wonderful. Sam, it was so cool just to hear further. And we've talked a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And we're working together on some projects together, which has been really fun.
Yeah, we have to flip the script and interview you on this.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
By the way.
Absolutely.
Oh, goodness. Sure.
Oh, sorry. You're just like, shut up, Sam. Get off the...
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, but I really, really genuinely appreciate you doing this with us today. And it's so wonderful just to hear further, just, your perspective and philosophy and to hear the really great work you're doing with Just Love. I hope that anyone listening, if you're local, that you'll be able to join a Just Love Curious Crew meetup. Those are wonderful spaces just to get to know other people looking for community that way.
Sam, how do people find more about your organization? Your movement.
Yeah, the website is justloveneworleans.org. It's if you look on there, it's like, wow, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. It's like, yep. It doesn't make any sense. So you'll have to go and see.
Plug in anywhere. Is that right?
And if you don't see it, it takes one little email and calls like, okay, we're going to do that then. Because it's just that easy.
Great.
So
That's great. All right. Well, thank you for your time. And if you're listening along, thank you for joining us. Remember, you can find more at www.stcharlesav.center. And please remember to like or subscribe if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. We'll drop a new episode every month. We look forward to being back with you soon.